You got something you can eat.
Welcome in to the Bite Me podcast. Somebody said something about grabbing a beer, having a legit dinner, and let's get this over with. But no, really, we're all happy to be here. I am John Lopez. That is Captain Dean Thomas. That is Captain Caleb McCumber. And that fellow over there is Captain Scott Nolan. This is the Bite Me podcast. Let's have some fun today like we always do. And we're going to start with something that kind of took on a life of its own. All we wanted to do was just eat a few oysters. That's all we wanted to do. But we'll get to that. And of course, your questions. Got some great questions. I got a question from a girlfriend of a listener, so that's that. We'll probably start there after we talk about the oysters. But this is the Bite Me podcast, and this is where you want to go to catch your to catch your fix of fishing talk if you can't be on the water. Used to say it all the time, haven't said it in a while. The best place to be if you can't be on the water is right here on the Bite Me podcast. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts: iTunes, Spotify, etc. Podbean is where we host it, so I recommend that. And of course, don't forget to join the Bite Me group page where we get a lot of our questions, a lot of the questions that we have right here. But let's dig in, man. So Dean,
what?
All we wanted to do was just eat a few oysters.
Oh yeah.
All we wanted to do was
and
just eat our grilled oysters.
I honestly did not realize the potential for controversy. Yeah, I was just like, man, these are some badass oysters. But yeah, I guess it was it exactly last week whenever we were?
It was this past weekend, not even a week.
So yeah, we should have prefaced it with a disclaimer.
No, I posted it, and so it was kind of on me, but I didn't even think that way either. So just background, and we will get this fella on the podcast because it's a hell of an interesting story. But background, those were sustainably farmed oysters. What's the background there, Dean?
Well, it was actually the first harvest from oyster farms in Texas. Mm-hmm. So my buddy Cody Kraft, there's even more to the beginning of the story. Brad Lomax, who owns the seafood in Corpus Christi, mm-hmm. the Water Street Oyster Bar and such as that. So he started a program farming oysters. Cody Kraft was contracted to build the pilings, to put the pilings in for the baskets. And so Cody's just one of those interesting dudes, man. He wants to learn everything he can learn about everything there is. So the subject of oyster farming came up. He does contractor work and other stuff like that, pilings. And so before he went and put these pilings in, he researched oyster farms and oysters, every detail about it. So when he showed up to put the pilings in with Brad Lomax, man, I hope that Brad's not listening to this. But I asked Cody, I was like, why did you do this? He's like, Brad Lomax cussed me out one day and told me I couldn't do it. So it inspired him to go full blown on that. And I hope I'm not infringing on storytelling, but he was motivated by the fact that somebody else was doing it. And so he went full scale. He's got oyster farm in Florida. He's got one in Louisiana and Lake Calcasieu. And then there are ones in Galveston, West Bay, and he's working on more leases. So the whole point of that is they spawn oysters in the lab. And so these oysters are actually, it's like the stripers and the things that they release in the lakes. They're actually sterile. They cannot reproduce. So they go and he'll explain. He's going to come on a future show where they take that ones with this X chromosome, this Y chromosome, they breed them together. So when they put them in an environment, they cannot spawn and disrupt the natural environment of what currently lives there. They're growing them in the water, but they will not interbreed with the species and the culture that is currently there. They're just using the water to raise them and grow them. So they spawn them in the lab, put them in these baskets, hang them in the bays, but they still perform the same service that oysters do. They filter water. They provide water filtration for the bays. They provide the same service that the oyster beds do, and they're tasty. They're
Man,
delicious.
they were delicious. But then all hell broke loose because I made that post and it got wild.
Yeah, and we should have seen it coming. I mean, we should have.
I'm just going to throw out there that wild caught oysters taste the best.
The which ones?
The wild caught oysters, they taste the best.
Okay, so you're going to use the bad guy.
So, have you ever done a side-by-side taste test? I don't think so, because you've never had a farm-raised oyster.
Whenever I bought my wife's engagement ring, I requested for that amount of money. It better be a blood diamond. That's just how we roll, buddy.
So for those who don't know,
on that subject, on the subject of taste, when Cody got here, he had 3 samples. He had a Florida oyster, a Louisiana oyster, and a Texas one. And he opened them 1, 2, 3. And I ate them straight out of the shell for a straight taste test. And the ones from Louisiana absolutely had the best, just natural oyster flavor.
I can attest. I can absolutely attest. They were delicious. But this is our future, man. Scott, this could really, because I think this could really take off and be something that, well, for those who don't know, first of all, to backtrack, there was a post, and we're not blaming him. I get it. There was a post like, hey, you guys are always talking about how they're, just devastating the oyster reefs, and this needs to be more controlled and all that. And of course, we made it clear, no, these were sustainably farmed. We're gonna have Cody on at some point in the future, because I think it's an interesting topic just to dig in on, and I'm sure we all have a lot of questions. But Scott, I feel like, hell yeah, this could work. Am I wrong?
No, I went to a little seminar deal that they put on. All the Texas oyster guys were there. John Blaha with CCA kind of got it all together. And it was down there in Rockport about a year ago, I guess. And all those guys got up on stage and they told their story of how they got started and what they were doing and how it all worked. It was pretty cool. As it grows, I think it should help. Stem the demand a little bit. Yeah. And as time goes on, I think we're going to see Parks and Wildlife get a little harder and a little harder on the oyster guys, because they are absolutely destroying just hundreds and hundreds, thousands of acres of oysters. There's places that I used to go that were solid oysters everywhere. They're just mud now and scattered oysters. Anything we can do to help.
Yeah. And driving down to Aransas last week, Port Lavaca was just boat after boat after boat. Dean, did you open?
So wait, I don't want to spoil. And no, same can. Almost empty. But I don't want to step on Cody's show that's coming up. But the one most interesting thing that I learned, and we will revisit this. So out here near the pass, near South Bay, Lighthouse Lakes, B&R Flats, those areas that I kayak fish for 20 plus years ago, loaded with live gnarly oysters that you would drag your kayak on, scratch it, tear the bottom of your kayak. Those oysters do not exist anymore. They are gone. Their rock piles, their shells are there, but I defy anybody to pull a live oyster out of there and show it to me. I don't believe it exists. So Cody was here out here in yard, and I'm asking him, and so I was like, man, I've always blamed water quality issues. Something is wrong in the water, the reason that all these oysters have died. He corrected my theory. The oysters that grow back in Copano, St. Charles, way back in those bays where oysters just thrive. They cover one side of the bay to the other, because those reefs are suffering, because those reefs are getting dredged constantly. The things that hatched, all of the little spat that came out of those oysters and drifted on those currents. They even had it down to how many days it takes. He said it takes 7 days for that current to get. He even had it up the river, so they need fresh water. There's a chemistry that causes them to spawn. So when it rains, the water comes down the river. It takes 7 days for the rainwater to get there. Then the oysters hit the temperature, the water salinity, boom, oysters spawn. Those little baby oysters, it takes 7 days for them to reach the pass to this area. And so wherever they land, whatever they cling on to is where they grow. That's where they live their whole life. They never move again. Because the oysters in the back bays are so depleted and so overfished that these oysters near the pass are not being replenished. They're not being seeded. And so the oysters that are there, they live their lifespan, they die, they turn to shell. There's nothing seeding those oysters, which is why the entire system along the entire Texas coast is being depleted of oysters, because they're not being reseeded. They're not having more little baby oysters swim around. So, yeah, I have so many questions for Cody. It's going to be a very educational show whenever we do get him on.
Yeah, we'll get it on. Caleb, you look like you're pondering this whole issue.
Hello. I'm pondering what's going on in the comments over there. But
yeah, somebody wants you to charge $9.99 for each red you catch.
Yeah, I don't know. Tyler's special. That's all I figured
going
out.
Broke. That's called going broke.
I charge way more than $9.99. No, but while we're here, somebody remind me to make a video that has something to do with Dean and that walrus on Alice in Wonderland that's talking all the little oysters into his house.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, remind me to get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. All right, so here's a question. Let's get into the rest of this stuff that we got from our listeners.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Did Caleb say that his favorite oyster is a mountain oyster?
Yeah, raw.
Well, Scott said that it was.
Those raw mountain oysters.
I just backtracked. I was reading backwards there. I felt like I missed something.
All right,
I mean,
go ahead.
As long as they aren't farm raised.
You like them wild?
I like them wild sourced.
It's kind of hard to harvest them. It can be a little hard to harvest those wild ones. All right, so Caleb, here's a question I got actually just yesterday morning. Hi, John. I have to admit, I didn't used to like you, but you're growing on me.
Before we get here, can we point out that through this entire paragraph she wrote, she never wrote that she did like him either? Go
I know.
ahead and read it.
Well, let me finish. Hi, John. I have to admit, I didn't used to like you, but you're growing on me. LOL. My boyfriend always turns on the podcast when we drive to my parents' house on the weekends, and it drove me crazy. I was always like, no, not him again. So
is her boyfriend
Andrew's girlfriend?
That describes every time I've been put on speakerphone when I've called a friend any time in my life.
Yeah.
Him again.
Oh no, not him again. But now I have a question for you guys. You're right. She never did say. She said that I was growing on her, but she never said she liked me.
Preach, sister. We know the feeling.
But now I have a question for you guys. I want to get him a new reel for Christmas. But this is kind of cute actually. But he uses the spinning one and the other one. Why would I get the spinning one and the other one? Why would I get one versus the other? Does it matter? I also have to say that now I look forward to hearing the way you guys laugh with each other, by the way. All right. So first of all, that's her question, Caleb. And why would she, if he uses both, why would she get the spinning one versus the other one?
Okay, first of all, let's loop back to the time we talked about how much fun y'all have fishing with your significant others.
Yeah.
I married this one. This is the one I married.
No,
that's
not
my favorite one right there.
You know,
I don't really know what
like
you do, but I buy you stuff for it.
Yeah, I didn't used to like you, but you're growing on me.
I mean, well, I mean, you could buy the spinny one or the other one. I'm sure you'd be happy with either one of them. I tell you, okay, look. There's a million ways we could go with this. There really is.
Well, that's why we're here, man.
If you've been a naughty girl this year, maybe you should buy the more expensive one. Mm-hmm. If not, I don't know any of that. What I do know, there's only one way to know what you should buy. I mean, here's what you do, and I hope she's listening because this is the tip from the pros. And I've never gave this tip out before. What you need to do is wait till he's taking a shower and then get in his phone and go through his group text with his friends and see which reel it is he talked about he wanted. Yeah. That's what I would do.
Good.
That's a great idea. Yes.
That's a breakup. That's a breakup waiting to happen.
I think Scott and Dean can both agree this is the only way to handle this situation.
I think Caleb just broke up a relationship, Scott. Go through his phone.
In his group text with his friends, he's going to talk about which one he wanted for Christmas. I promise.
Among other things. Among other
yeah,
things.
and his other girlfriend.
I think if I were her,
I got a real answer, and I'm ripping it off of Jay Schultz. Buy him a gift certificate for however much you want that reel to cost and send him to the store. And if you remember, you can get 15% off. Shameless
yeah,
plug.
but sometimes you want to be like that good girlfriend says, "Hey, I got you the fill in the blank."
The only way you can do that is by going through his text.
Scott?
So if I were her and I didn't know which one to go with, I'd probably go into his fishing tackle room and take a look and count how many of the spinning ones he's got and how many of the other ones he's got.
The spinning ones and the other ones.
And make my decision based on that. That would show you which one he prefers.
They're all kind of spinny. I mean,
You can tell at one point she heard him talking about a spinning reel, so she says the spinning one. It's like it's on it's like it spins when it's on your rod. It's going around.
I mean, the gift certificate is the way to go here, no doubt.
Well, here's what I thought. Think brands, right? Think brands, and maybe that's where we go. Spinning reel, Scott. You and Dean and Caleb, certainly have your opinions and better expertise on this. But spinning, I would go with Shimano. Obviously, casting, the baits, Hundo or the other baits. What's it called? The
salty Hundo.
Yeah, the salty Hundo. Or the Shimano Tranks. Those are all, relatively good. I mean, very good, but relatively inexpensive. So I would go brands. That's my advice for the girl that now likes me.
Shimano lose baits.
She never said that.
She never, but now she does because I gave her good advice. I forget her name. I have to go back and look at my messages.
We'll find out. We'll find out.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody said you just saved her a lot of money by having her go through the phone because she's out. She's
probably just got her half of a lot of stuff.
Yeah. You eat an oyster, you talk about somebody's girlfriend, there will be repercussions.
And what's funny is on the other end of us, there's a dude that is learning a severe lesson about introducing us to his girlfriend.
Yeah, and he's putting a new key code on his phone right now, too.
And that's the other thing. Like, she was very specific about when she listens to the podcast. When we drive on the weekends to my parents' house, there's not a lot of people that, well, I guess there could be, but I think somebody out there is going, "Oh, that's me."
If she listens to the podcast every weekend while he's driving to her parents' house, he deserves a pretty dang nice reel.
He does.
Now that I dissect that situation.
Mm-hmm.
What if they have a big ass house on the water in Rockport the next 3 or something? Now maybe she deserves something.
Yeah, exactly. The spinning one.
Can we just have her on?
I can message her.
Okay. I feel like we should bring her in.
I can message her. So, Dean, any thoughts on this spinning one versus the other one?
Gift certificate, man.
No, she wants to be the good girlfriend.
Well, man, that's Scott had a good idea.
With a receipt for exchange.
Say that again. A
$400 reel with a receipt for an exchange.
Boom.
Then if you don't like that one, you can go get two of something.
But yeah, or you go you go look at the rod rack and see what the most of them are on there.
Then his brand and
yeah. I mean, the gift certificate for Christmas is badass. Then you get your choice. Then you might get a combo. If she gets a gift certificate, we should let her know that the reel is going to cost like $900. So get a gift certificate for $900, and then you can get 3 reels or either 2 rod and reel combos and some string and everything.
String.
Yeah, you put some string on the spinny thing.
She may call it. She may call it string. For all we know. Yeah, so we'll see. I think part of it also is she just wants to get those points, man. She wants to get those scores.
I just realized we could have a whole nother hour that's just advice from the captains.
Well,
we
now you're on to
don't
something.
we don't even talk fishing. Just ask us your daily life problems, and we'll help you solve them.
Well, we have a live studio audience here on the YouTube channel. Let's take a couple of those in a little bit as we get through these topics. But
really bad idea.
that's a really bad idea. Tell us your life questions. Hey, real quick.
There's already been 3 people ask if she has a sister. Like, do we really want to get into these people?
I knew Caleb was going to turn it dirty eventually. I was just waiting.
Yeah.
I never turned it dirty, did I?
You asking about her sister?
Yeah.
I didn't. I said somebody else did. I am happily married. Thank you.
Jay on the live stream says if she sends me $900, I'll get him a real good reel and pocket 500.
That's it.
Why didn't I think of that? Hey, you guys and myself, if we're being honest, we have more fishing gear, more fishing stuff than we know what to do with. What would you want, Caleb? What would you want if you had, in your case, a wife that wanted to get you something for your obsession of fishing? You have everything.
I ask for the same thing every year and don't get it.
Well, I really don't want you to answer that. I really don't want you to answer that.
And I'm really trying to. That's the thing about maybe some nerd stuff. I mean, iPad or something. I don't want things.
Creator stuff.
Every year people for Christmas this year I asked for a total of 2 pairs of Wranglers and a pair of shoes. I don't really I don't want anything. I have it all. I have my friends and my family and allegedly good health because I won't go to the doctor.
Oh, please go to the doctor.
Peace for the world and a cure for hunger. That's all I need.
You are really scoring points with the big guy upstairs. Scott, you have everything. I've seen your setup, but let's say Camille says, I want to get him something, special for his obsession. What would you want?
I usually just buy whatever I want.
I know. All of us do. All of us do. Outside of like a trip, maybe, maybe go to Costa Rica again or something like that, but like actual fishing stuff.
Actual fishing gear. Man, that's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to go wrong with like a Grundens or a Sims wading jacket. That's a tough one to beat.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs one. And whether you use spinny thingies, the other ones, you fish in the boat, you don't fish in the boat, you always got a use for it.
And Perry is scoring points with your host, saying book him a trip with one of y'all and an OG sauce gift box. I think Perry bought one, if I got the email correctly. Those gift boxes you can get at ogsauce.com. That is a shameless plug right there. Dean, most of my stuff is like stuff that I broke. Like I recently broken my what you call it? Now I'm drawing a blank.
Look, I'm
the weight thing. The weight thing.
Oh, your scale, your boga.
Boga. I recently broke my boga. Yeah, so I'm gonna get a boga, I think, hopefully.
You hold a boga like that.
I know, but I was just showing y'all.
Well, that doesn't help us.
Because you squeeze.
We thought we were like ingesting a brisket or something.
Well, I do that too. Dean?
So you're asking, I'm sitting in my fishing room right here, surrounded by 5 lifetime supplies of fishing gear. They're screwed on the ceiling. They're stacked in every corner. I had to just pile shit off of this table to find me a place to sit down today.
Yeah, I stumped my toes on these things sitting down. Like,
yeah. I mean, if I could just spin the camera around, it would be ridiculous. There's no piece of fishing gear. Which is funny that I mentioned that because I was still walk into the tackle store and spend $400 for some stupid reason. But yeah, there's reels stacked up in the corner. There's rods everywhere. Man, I even tell everybody around me, do not get me anything for Christmas. I refuse to participate in Christmas. I got 4 boxes of Amazon on the porch of shit I bought for myself today.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody got me a $200 gift card to Bass Pro Shop, and I hated them for the 4 hours I tried to find something to spend $200 on in that store.
Yeah, just clothes.
An idea on the spinny thingies though, because like a lot of people they buy like the cheaper ones or whatever. But a Shimano Stratic isn't overly expensive, and it's probably the nicest spinning reel that anybody's ever used.
The spinning one.
The spinning one. Yeah, Shimano Stratic. What they got, like 189, 199 or something?
Yeah, those are good reels.
And it's a heck of it for the money. It's a heck of a good reel. So see if he has something, a Shimano Stratic, and if he doesn't, then the spinny thingy.
Yeah, that would do it. I need to get some more lilies. I just on a whim, I was throwing some lilies this weekend and caught 2 real nice.
The only thing I need for Christmas is more arrows. I'm running out of arrows. Like don't really replenish. They don't use that. So.
Did you get your deer this weekend? By the way, Dean and his friends got 4 deer this weekend, and his family, whatever. Did you use? Was that bow?
That was gun. We were just killing. We were out to kill. Bow hunting is for sport. Gun is for killing.
Yeah, you needed some venison.
Well, it was about getting rid of the undesirables and.
Yeah, you got like a spike and doe.
Yeah, they had to be killed immediately. I couldn't wait for them to come within range.
All right, so here's a topic I really want to dig in. We can spend as much time as you guys want to because I think this is really good. The first part of it was directed at Scott, but there's other ones that have been either comments or follow-ups from that. So, Scott, I think you got this on your personal, maybe not, maybe on the Bite Me group page, but it was talking about, I call it cold and wet conditions, but really they said in bad visibility or not exactly the best conditions for sight casting, especially fly fishing. So what are the adjustments? What are the recommendations there? When you're going out, you got people on the boat, you want to go fish perhaps, but it's not exactly, ice cream out there.
There's 3 things that screw up sight casting in the shallow water: wind, clouds, and high water. If I got one of those 3, we can still work with it pretty good. If I get 2 of the 3, it gets tougher. If all 3 of them are in there, it's going to be a long damn day. And but the best thing you can do when it is that long day is just cover a lot of water and be ready for close shots. Be ready for those really up close, too damn close to throw a fly at them kind of shots where you just slap the fly in front of them. If you got one of those 3, you still got a shot there. You can still see some fish most of the time. Go shallower, get in shallower water. Go as far back as you can push. Reds will always go shallower. You're looking for wakes. You're looking for tails. One of the things I look for is when the mullet kind of gather up real tight. You got a bunch of mullet in the area and all of a sudden they start gathering up tighter. Throw behind that. You're looking for signs more than you are a fish when the conditions get bad. And some blind casting, never hurts. Anything that moves, any ripple, anything that looks odd, throw at it. I get a lot of people on the boat that want to see the whole damn fish. They're standing on the bow and they're waiting and they're waiting and they're waiting. And something, I see a wake. So that's a wake. That's a redfish wake. And they start staring at it like they're waiting to see the fish. And you're not going to see the fish all the time. Go ahead and throw. But you just got to be a little more aggressive on those overcast and windy days.
I know what you're laughing at, Caleb. I know what you're laughing at.
I just read it. I just read it. It took me a minute to figure it out, but that's funny.
A good gift for a fly fisherman could be a subscription to Grindr.
I'm not going to say what that is, but you can Google it. And it's not
getting me off the hook for last week, man.
They misspelled grinder. I don't think there's an E at the end.
There's not.
But that's that.
Oh, yeah. When it's windy like that and you're sight casting, Scott isn't saying cover a lot of ground. He's saying you're going to cover a lot of ground. It is completely not voluntary. And Scott, remember when Compton asked you, how the hell do I cast it something that's 6 foot away when I have a 9 foot rod?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be problematic.
Step back 3 feet.
Yeah.
And then And then the next thing, I actually did a video. I did a video the other day on fishing when the weather sucks, and then I tried to do a continuation yesterday, and it was just like Scott was talking about. The mullet were all schooled up, and they were pushed up against the grass in a ball, and they were flickering, they were nervous, and every once in a while, like, oh. And so I did this whole video clip just recording that. And Jimmy, you need to get this angle and that angle. And we got up there, and I was like, look, you can see the silhouette of the fish right there pushing over against grass. And I was looking at probably about a 25-inch red, maybe 20 feet out, 2 feet deep. And I flipped on it, man. It turned and ate it. And I set the hook, and it was a 40-pound black drum.
Oh.
It doesn't always work.
Well, you got some good setup video, that's for sure.
We got something.
You got something. Dean, here's some follow-ups here. That's why I think this is a good topic. Because the other follow-up that I got, I think it was a comment, was about what about not ideal conditions and you're casting blind when drifting. I'm guessing they're not seeing the signs that Caleb and Scott were talking about. How do you decide? Not the best conditions. You haven't really fished. You want to just pull up. How do you decide? And what do you do?
Well, you just start throwing blindly out there.
You just cast blind.
I mean, you start chunking it out there. I mean, it's what I tell people. It's like, get to work. I mean, it's time you're just going to get to work. And you, I mean, it's just like Scott said, when it's all jacked up, you're not going to see fish out there, man. Even on the best of conditions with overcast, with cloudy skies. I mean, you get glare and reflection off the water. It's impossible to see what's going on down there. Then you're focusing on swirls and pushes and wakes and stuff like that. And then you're throwing at every mullet that swims, every flick of a tail that's out there. But, that's why we get so excited when we have perfect sight casting conditions, whenever, you can see 20 or 30 feet out ahead of you, and you can see cruising fish and little pods that are, really lazy that aren't giving off those signs. So, I mean, there's some days that it's just not going to happen. I mean, if you can't see them, you just can't see them. There's nothing you can do to change that. That's when you put, I mean, if you're fly fishing, you put a popper on, you start making some noise. That's when you need one of those little spinny things to get cover as much area as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Want to cover some water, make some noise. But I mean, yeah, the days that sight casting is perfect and you're out there just spotting fish and throwing at them, that's why they're so special. They don't happen every day.
John, I got to tell you something.
Go ahead.
The thing that keeps me awake through these is the sheer moments of panic I get when Dean or Scott take forever to start answering a question, and I feel like you asked me something and I just blew right past it in my brain. Didn't even know it.
You're like, was that me?
I started to panic a little bit.
See, that's shades of middle school right there.
Mm-hmm. When I start to panic, when I'm the third one in the lineup and I completely forgot where the question started.
Well, that's why we add levels, man. That's my job.
Well, that's why I let you keep talking sometime, because it's like there's going to be a clue. There's going to be a clue here.
If you listen to the other answers, then there's some context there. You can go
exactly. Scott gets the
We're
gold
busy
star.
reading comments, Scott.
Okay, so here's another comment, and Scott, I'll go to you on this one, because it was man, this weekend was. So I had the 3-day weekend, didn't fish Friday, didn't fish Saturday. It was just, I didn't want to put myself through that. I just didn't. And she sure didn't. And it was windy, it was wet, it was raining. So we went out Sunday and caught some nice fish. But when I went out Sunday, it reminded me of this comment here. Like, if it's bad, y'all have been talking about drop-offs and when the weather gets a little cooler and water temp gets a little cooler and we'll get to that. Like where you go. The comment was, what are those basics? What are those basics of where the fish will be when it's kind of miserable? You haven't been out in a while. Like if you can just go over that again, like, okay, I'm going out, don't know which way to turn, right, left, straight, whatever. What am I looking for? Just basically, the parameters.
It hasn't gotten cold enough to drive them off the flats. In fact, it's cool enough now that they're actually going onto the flats. And they're staying up shallow all day now instead of just early in the morning, late in the evening. So right now, if I hadn't been out in a while and I'm just going to slide out, I'm going to go start hitting some shallow grass, maybe some back lakes. I'm going to go poking around where I can see fish and figure out what they're doing. Once it gets that real cold, yes, then you're looking at the drop offs, and that's when you start watching tides, falling tide in the late afternoon, drawing some. It's been a sunny day. You got a tide falling in the late afternoon. That water's warmed up along the edge of the drop offs, along the edge of the drains. That's where you're going to find your fish. If it's just a dead cold, dreary, not going to warm up, that's when you start bumping bottom. Go to a little bit deeper water, get in a channel somewhere. It's all situational as to what the weather has been leading up to it, and how cold it actually is and what it did to the water. There's times when the air temperature drops quite a bit, but if you look at the water temperature, it really didn't drop much.
That's been the case lately.
Yeah. I mean, we've had some pretty chilly mornings, but the water temperatures really haven't gone like dropping like the air temperatures have. We haven't had that long sustained front that gets cold, stays cold, keeps the water levels down. And then when they come back up, then it's cold. We just hadn't had that yet. It's coming. We'll get it, but it's not here yet.
The other good thing, go ahead, Caleb.
It's just getting good right now that everything's cooling off. And we've had a lot of luck in shallow water lately. And like Scott was saying, the fishing goes all day long. Whenever the water temperature gets 60 and 55 and below that, that's whenever you start really worrying about them sliding off and doing whatever they're going to do. But right now, we're in good shape. This cool down we've got blowing outside right now, and it's going to pull water and shallow and pull bait out. It's going to do nothing but be phenomenal for the next couple of weeks.
That's so the Scott, other thing. And I know you guys as guides, your clients, your customers want to get out there early and fish all day. But if for people like me, we didn't even hit the water till. I mean, we got to the boat at 9. We weren't on the water till 9:30. We fished till about 12:45, 1 o'clock, and it was on. I mean, we caught like 8 reds, 4 trout, and it was great. So like if you're just fishing, don't feel like you have to be out there at the coldest and the most miserable. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, I have customers that will tell you this fool told us to meet us at 8:30. All the other guys left at 5:30, and we caught fish. In fact, one of the best days I've ever been on. I had something happen. I think I slept in or something, but I showed up like 45 minutes late. I got there like 8 o'clock, and my customer has kind of risen me about it. And I was like, man, it ain't going to start happening until 9, 10 o'clock anyway. And it was probably, in fact, I called Scott after that trip. It was not only was it a heck of a day, but it was just one of those days whenever I was on point with seeing them and making the calls and all of that. And it was,
that's the best.
10 to 12,
That's the best.
It's hard to get it. This time of year is, we always say it, this time of year is when guides are created, because it's hard to get it wrong this time of year.
Yeah, but it's still you feel like a genius when and that happened this weekend. Actually, that ties in with the last part of this cold and wet conditions topic, keeping it interesting. So Dean, you get out there early, and again, I don't feel like you have to feel like you need to be out there early, but guides often have to. Keeping it interesting, like let's say you got a newbie on your boat, or a newbie and a veteran on your boat, Dean. Like I had Jan. This is where I got this one from. This was my contribution to this topic. Like I could tell, because we went out there, she was getting a little pelted with the drizzle, and she's like, "I thought you were going to turn around." I was like, "No, I ain't going to turn around. It's clearing up." But we got out there, and immediately we caught a couple of reds right out of the chute. I think I sent you some pictures, and then there was a lull, and I'm talking and I'm explaining and I'm telling her why we're going here and why we're going there. Keeping it interesting when you're going to catch some fish, but there's those lulls,
Was she interested in your guide talk?
She learned a lot. She caught 2 more redfish. she learned a lot. I'm always playing guide on the boat, no matter who's on the boat. But I was telling her why we're drifting here, why we're moving our drift, why I'm moving the power pole, changing the pace of her top water, because I caught 3 right away and she hadn't caught anything, and then all of a sudden she caught a couple, and then we went to another spot, and so how do you do it? Like people are. It's cold. It's cold. It's wet. It's not exactly. You can tell there may be a little bit like, why am I out here? What do you do?
Well, yeah, I mean, and when it gets like that, I explain the thought process to keep people's confidence up. To keep them believing that I know what I'm doing and what I'm talking about.
You got to say it real firm, like.
Oh, I do. I can sell it.
Salty. You got to be salty when you say it.
Yeah. I in fact, I'm thinking at one time I said, let's go about 20 feet that way. I don't know why I did that.
I don't know. I don't know how you went 2 hours without catching a fish at this time of year, man. That's
we made up for it. We had a really good day.
No one should go 2 hours without catching a fish right now.
Like you haven't. like you haven't.
Now they right now is the 1st of December right up to Christmas is as good as it gets. I like all the dead shrimp guys out there catching their drum and posting all their big tablesfuls of drum right now. I find that to be quite entertaining. It's like whacked them and stacked them today, boys.
Yeah, boy. Okay.
We whacked them.
They said it's salty like.
Yes. They typed it. You can even, it reads, when you read the words, you sound salty.
40 minutes and 39 seconds this week, guys. 40 minutes and 39 seconds, but before Dean got started on them. That's like 32
We're
minutes.
We're keeping a running tab. That's actually that's progress.
Yeah, he did good. He did good. Now, last week I told you I was going to go out and do a video purposely in crappy weather, and it may conclude the story here, but cold and rain, cold and wind, or just cold. I did. I think we just released it on Angry You today, which we have gift cards for. Yes, we do. Miss Lady that wants to buy something for your husband, another $20 won't kill you. Mm-hmm. But like Scott was saying, the drop-offs, but a lot of drop-offs people overlook, and this goes for just about anywhere: Arroyo, Lavaca, Victoria Barge Canal, Colorado, San Bernard, Brazos. Keep heading north all the way to the stinking Pearl. Mm-hmm. Man, we go up the river, and the river's different to fish. You don't really fish it like you're fishing the bay, which I went into pretty big depth. But what I do is I use something small with a really fluttery tail, and then a 1/4 to a 1/2 ounce jig head, and I'll throw it up. And there's different things you do off of the bank, and understanding what the bank does. But if the question is truly, what do you do when it's cold and miserable? Which right now I wouldn't really consider this cold and miserable. Maybe today, but we haven't reached that time yet. But find somewhere that's got, like I said, a bayou, river, something like that. You've got high banks on a lot of it. You got trees on a bunch of it. As long as you're not in an area where the wind is blowing down it, if you're where that river is running, where it blows across it, it's not that bad to fish it, and you can usually have some pretty good luck.
Well, I'm curious now, and I'm just going to be completely honest. I never really thought about smaller with a fluttery tail. Are you going to share that with us real quick?
I call it
that's right.
I call it a Mr. Wiggle Butts, but and the thing is, I can share it all I want, but the only place I've ever been able to find it is at Stanley's in Matagorda. But it's like a 3-inch. Well, the packet, and I called Mr. Hoagie, the man himself, and he was like, he didn't even know what the hell lure I was talking about, because I wanted to buy like 1,000 of them. Mm-hmm. But sometimes the packet says 3-inch twin tail shrimp on it. Sometimes it says something different on a ball the other day, but it's just got like 2 little curly tails, and it's a little
like they're split. I think I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
But I call it a Mr. Wiggle Butts because I really don't know what it's ever been called. I personally prefer a chartreuse one with silver glitter in it, but it's hard. I can barely find them. I don't always get my color.
Yeah, like a flounder pounder or a gulp.
Yeah,
it looks like a gulp, doesn't it?
But it's got like the curly tail. It looks like maybe kind of one of those manna shrimp gulp ones. It just the idea is it's small and it's fluttery, and I can make it bounce on bottom and puff the bottom.
Yeah,
that's really the whole idea behind it. I don't do as well with the bigger paddle tails and the rat tails and stuff in the river as I do with that particular little critter right there. Thank you, Captain Tommy Kuntz, for teaching me that lesson. He didn't teach me a lesson. He kicked my ass for a day and a half and told me I thought you were good, but he wouldn't let me use one of those lures that he had in his pocket.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So
that's
Scott,
how lessons are taught.
This is not the time of year for this just yet, but that did remind me when he was talking about, on the shorelines and bouncing it. One of the things that you and I have always talked about that's worth mentioning right here is rocks, maybe some steel on the side of a big drop off in the channel or something as the sun comes up if it's really, really cold, right?
Yep. Any kind of riprap, anything that's a solid surface above the water that extends into the water. On a sunny day, it's going to heat up just a little bit, and it's going to warm that water just a little bit. And I always go back to the day we fished South Padre, the day after it snowed in South Padre, and we fished it was an old neighborhood that it didn't make, and it had a seawall, and those trout were within a foot of the seawall. If you hit the seawall and it fell, they'd eat it. If you missed it by 2 feet, there wasn't a fish around. They were all hugging right up against the edge of it. They were eating just fine, but I think it was just that little bit of warmth. It was like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. It had a little bit of sun on it.
The conduction.
Yep. It just
from the metal of the riprap.
Yeah, it just heated that water up just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. All right, so I'm going to jump ahead because this one kind of ties in with that too. And this is a interesting question from a listener. Dean, I'm going to start with you. So fishing last week, I caught 3 fish in about an hour and a half, and felt like I should just stay there. This is an age-old question, and the peer pressure is real, but let me finish the question. I felt I should stay there. But 2 boats around me left after about 30 minutes. I saw both of them catch a fish, but they left anyway. Maybe it was peer pressure, but I eventually left too. I second-guessed myself the whole drive home because everywhere else I went after leaving that one spot, I couldn't catch a thing. Should I have stayed? How do you guys know to stay? Like the peer pressure of we've all been there. We're in a spot, maybe scattered fish, catching a couple of fish. Boat comes by, 20, 30 minutes later, they leave. Another boat comes by 20, and you're like, am I in the wrong spot? I mean, that is an age-old thing on the water, isn't it?
When they leave, I'm excited. It's like, y'all get the hell out of here so I can fish now. Quit scaring my fish.
Involve somebody leaving.
What's that?
Some of my best days involve somebody leaving. Some of my biggest trout that I've ever caught, somebody, because the thing I found in Baffin was about 1 o'clock, everybody leaves and goes back to Corpus. And from 2 until dark, it could be so good. And they were all around us and just left. And man, the fishing turned on about an hour later. And then I've told y'all before about we had a day we caught a ton over 25 inches. There were some dudes parked. We were on one side of the cove and they're on the other side of the cove, and they fished about 2 hours and left. And man, we took fish off for those 2 hours. And then I saw them at the ramp later that night. They're like, man, we didn't catch crap over there. I was like, yeah, us either. But
and when the thing about it is you can't let other people influence your decision making.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that's the point. Yeah.
That's everybody out there, you can't trust any of them. I mean, you really can't. The second dude probably saw the first dude leave and he didn't know what the hell he was doing. So then the second dude was like, yeah, man, shit, monkey see, monkey do. Let's get the hell out of here.
None of them have been there if they hadn't saw the first guy there.
Let's say you're the first one. And then somebody comes in and leaves. Next person comes up and leaves.
That's why the other 2 showed up, because he was there first. Man, if you're on a spot that you know is going to produce, sometimes you have to fish through a couple of slow minutes. You got to move around a little bit, give the fish a chance to change their mind, to get in a better mood. But just because other people left is not a good reason. You got to stick with your plan. If you had a plan, if I leave, it's because of my own reasons, not because another boat did and another boat did. I might leave because 5 more boats pulled up and got crowded.
Yeah.
But I mean, you put all that effort into coming up with a plan, stick with your plan, and then you don't second guess yourself. It might be kicking yourself in the ass because it didn't work out, but there's a lot of ways to beat yourself up in this game, man. You just got to get back out there and get after it again.
Well, peer pressure is real, Scott. I mean, we've all seen it happen. Of course, I think all 4 of us kind of subscribe to what Dean was just talking about. But one thing I do, Scott, is I try to convince myself, kind of like Dean with the best weather forecast. I'm like, well, the monitor is really just starting, or well, the tide is just starting to go out. I'm going to hang out a little more. I almost have to convince myself not to succumb to that,
If you're seeing the things you want to see, stick around. If you're seeing the bait, the water clarity's right, things are looking good, stick around. If things look dead, I mean, we've all been there where we just felt that there's just some sixth sense you get about it. It's just dead right here. Well, that then it's time to move. But I see it on the jetties a lot. I mean, that is a constant thing on the jetties. One guy pulls up, two more pull up, one on either side of him. Then another one pulls up on the other side of them. They all cast for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then slowly they start moving off. Like Dean says, I'm happy when they leave because then my tarpon get going again.
Yeah. Well, you can also, and this maybe ties in with you, Caleb, like he says you can feel it's just dead. You can also feel the other way. Like a couple of months ago, maybe not even that long, we were out down there, and I wasn't fishing with Jan. I was fishing with another buddy, and I said, and we weren't catching anything. And I just had that, it's something. I don't know if it's the air. It's like the cows eating or whatever. I said, it's fixing to turn on. And sure enough, I felt like a genius that day because it turned on. I can't tell you why, but it wasn't gangbusters, but it turned on. I mean, you can feel that both ways, no matter what anybody else is doing.
What I do is I wonder myself, what would make somewhere else better? Is there better water movement there? No, right now the tide's slack. Does the water look good here? Yeah, it looks good here, but the tide's slack. But the tide's about to start moving here in a little bit. And look, there's a minor that's kind of lining up with it. And it feels fishy, so I'll hang out. One of the perks of being me and knowing most people in the water is when you leave and somebody slides in behind you, if they kick their ass, they're going to call you and tell you about it. So I always enjoy one of those. That's great. I was fishing a spot the other day and caught a couple of decent ones and kind of rolled out. And Charlie Paradosky came in behind me, and this was last week sometime. And I talked to Charlie last night. I was like, yeah, we caught a couple 5s and a couple 6s right there. I was like, man, that's great to hear. That's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I was out fishing with clients one day and we hadn't caught shit. And then this dude pulls up in this Freedom Warrior. He's like, man, these trout been jumping in my boat. I caught a 40-incher. They just won't quit. How's your day going? Yeah. And then that happened.
I thought the statute of limitations on that had given up, had passed already, Dean.
That will never, ever give up. No.
He ain't forgetting that one.
I apologize.
The only way you're going to get over that is with a gift box of OG sauce under my Christmas tree. And that still ain't going to work.
It probably won't. But for those who don't know, weren't listening to that episode, I did that. I as soon as the words were coming out of my mouth, I'm like, how'd y'all do? We're killing it.
Because 3 people on my boat turned around and went, huh? Who's that jackass?
I think that's the day I caught like a 25 or 26 too. That showed you the picture. Big ass trout.
And
I had a guy I don't even know.
Next question.
I had a guy I don't even know come putting behind me yesterday while I was fishing. He had a boat full of customers. And one of the customers said, y'all catch it? Y'all, what did he say? He said, yeah, he said, y'all catching them all? And I turned around. I was like, assess the situation. I was like, all we've had is a black drum. And you saw the guy go, thank God. Thank God. Okay. That could have went bad.
I knew better. Well, let's squeeze another one in here. Come on, man. That's been at least 3 or 4 months, Dean. Anyway, let's get another one in here because it was on last week's rundown.
I'm going to see me in 3 years and ask me what I think.
Killed him. Just killed him. All right. So this is a question from, I think it's a group page. When it comes to winter fishing, how cold is too cold? Y'all probably saw this when it comes to water temps. And again, we're not there yet, like Scott was talking about, but it's coming. At what water temp do the reds and specks shut down in terms of feeding? Now, I'm guessing he's saying shut down, like maybe the aggressive bite, or maybe we should address all of that, Scott. Like, is there a magic number when it comes to water temps and things just sort of changing for the fish?
Well, they will still eat when it's dead cold. I mean, like they're damn near dying from the cold. They'll still eat. That's why they close certain areas down. That's why the Parks and Wildlife has those emergency closures. Army Hole, there's a bunch of them up and down the coast that are famous. Port Mansfield Harbor. That's why they close them, is because those fish will still eat. Then they're just gathered up in such a tight location that people take advantage of them. Most of the time, if it's cold, wait till the afternoon. Let it warm up just a little bit, and you'll have a little better bite. Getting out there early in the morning, like Caleb likes to do, hour before daylight. That's just not going to work on those days. When I used to guide Louisiana, hell, we didn't leave the house till 8:30, 9 o'clock every morning. I'd let the sun get up and start warming things up a little bit before we'd even get going. But it's never really too cold. I mean, it's too cold to be out there sometimes. I don't want to be out there anymore the older I get, but the fish don't care.
I have a story for this one. So when we had the killer freeze, what was that?
21.
21. So it was 9 degrees for a couple of days. Electricity was out. Everything sucked. The day that all ended and the sun came up, we went out there riding around. It was warm enough to be out there again. I pulled up to Hog Island, to the beach. I beached my boat. And so Hog Island has a Corpus Christi Bayou that runs in front of it. Beautiful drop off right down to the channel there. Grabbed a ride, was walking out. And this was before any trout floated, before you could find any dead fish. It was the repercussions, or the situation had not been realized yet of how bad the fish kill was. But I'm walking down that shoreline. It had been 9 degrees below freezing for a week. I'm walking down that shoreline, boom, see a redfish cruising. Wham, throw a little soft plastic out there. Fish comes charging. Bam, just destroys it, eats it. So the moral of the story is it had been cold for so many days that those fish have time to adjust to the cold. In the beginning of a dramatic change, the first 1 day, 2 days after a major drop, they're going to be locked up. They're going to be cold. They're going to be adjusting. 4 or 5 days after a cold front. I mean, we catch fish in 40-degree water. 55 is pretty damn pleasant in January and February. So it's timing. It's after they've been cold for a while, and then they get in the mood to eat again. But I mean, there's really, I mean, unless you're chipping ice in the bay, it's really not going to be. I don't feel like there's anything such thing as too cold. Too cold for me.
Yeah, too cold for you.
But 100% spot on.
He is. Yeah. But that's what I was going to ask you, Caleb, because then it begs the question, and I know our listeners are thinking this, what about presentation? And I know you and I are in the same boat, so to speak, of I don't really change my presentation. It has to be really, really cold water for me to slow anything down. What are your thoughts?
Oh, you're talking about, cold like Dean's talking about. I mean, Pat and I fished the Legends in 47-degree water, wading in 3 feet of water and caught our fish. Just they had all lost a pound because, like Dean said, they had sat around and done nothing for 3 or 4 days. But man, when they were hitting it that day, they were knocking the heck out of it. But we were still fishing them real slow. But 55, 60, especially 65-degree water, I'm not changing a whole lot. If I'm not catching anything, then I'll start changing a whole lot. But I'm not going out there with it's got to be a really slow presentation today. Whenever my normalities don't work, then I'll start playing with slower, but I'll also play with faster too. It depends on what the bait's showing me. If I'm in a cove and there's just really the bait I'm seeing isn't really doing much, it's there, but it's not really doing much, then I'll start off a little bit slower. But it's got to be cold for me to just drag it on bottom all day long.
Well, I'm looking at the forecast right now as we get into what would Scott do, what would Caleb do, what would Dean do, and again, I don't want you guys necessarily to repeat each other unless you want to raise your hand and add something. So, Caleb, I am going to start with you. You've been out on the water a lot, and I like putting that pressure on you. It's been a little cooler, but man, I'm seeing 73 on Friday, 70, 73, the air temperature. So we're not going to be there yet. But there are going to be some, maybe a chance of rain here and there, but nothing too serious. What are you going to do when you get out are you getting out this week?
I'll be going out this weekend. I think Friday Pat and I are supposed to fish with Perry Ballman and chase after a big fish, but Pat might punt that to Saturday. I don't know. Here's what I hope. I hope that this air is a little bit colder than they say it's going to be, because I see a low of, I've seen 40s at night and the wind mixed in. I'm hoping it gets the water pretty cold. And the reason I want that is because it shifts back. You got a couple of hours a piece on Wednesday, tomorrow, and then it's going to shift back to the southeast at like 15 to 20, 15 to 20, 15 to 25. And the reason I want it cold is I want that protected at least half of the bay to streak up easier. I want to have I want to have some clean water over there, because I do think that this is going to pull bait out and it's going to set the fishing off for a little while, as far as waiting near drains. And particularly, my thing is fishing out of the boat. That's not a secret anymore. I think we're going to have critters schooled up. I think it's going to pull a lot of redfish out of the back lakes and stuff that's on the south shoreline right now. The water levels for Matagorda at least are right at 0, and the wind hasn't even really started yet. So I'm thinking we could drop down to maybe a foot low, maybe a little bit more, if it truly does stay with west in it and blow 40 tonight like it's supposed to. Right now the tide's incoming and it's still dropping at a pretty decent rate. However, if I can get some clean water this weekend on that protected shoreline, the south shoreline of wherever it is, I'd be wading the shoreline near some drains, or I'd be drifting around seeing what's going on out there a little bit deeper. I'd probably stay relatively closer to the shorelines where the bait's been pulled out to find the bigger biomass of the fish. But man, that's the plan. North shoreline, if it blows like it's supposed to, it could dirty it up, but at the same time, we've got a northwest wind pulling water out right now, and then we're going to turn around and get a southeast wind putting water back in. So your incoming tide on, for instance, in East Matagorda Bay, where the water's coming out of the intercoastal and coming across the reefs and through the cuts on the north side, could be good. It just depends on how tore up that water really is.
Yeah,
I don't think this one's going to be as dramatic as predicted. We were supposed to have gale force winds here this afternoon.
I'm looking at it right now. It's supposed to be windy in AP right now.
Yeah, and so right now the wind at the Port Aransas jetties is 13 knots. So that's not a gale. That's a normal day for us. And then the tide here is at 0.8, and it's on the low tide right now. So, and then we got the wind coming down dramatically tomorrow, and then a southeast wind for 3 days, and then an east wind, east, southeast. There's not a north wind in the future here for Port Aransas for.
In Matagorda, I don't know. It's sustained 22 and gusting to 28.9 knots, which I don't know what 28.
I don't know. Maybe it's just a little behind schedule, and it just hasn't got here yet.
It's not supposed to start ripping until tonight. Tonight's supposed to it's supposed to be blowing 40 miles an hour.
That's what I keep hearing.
It's 31
it's
gusting to 37 here right now.
It's 37 right now?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm looking at Port O'Connor.
I was outside working before we got going on this, and it was blowing stuff everywhere. I mean, it's ripping over here. I don't know how in the hell it's not blowing in Aransas.
How long is it?
Do what?
How long is it? Did it just start?
It's been going for a couple of hours at least.
Yeah, it's just slowly building though. That's why Pat and I were going to go do a video today on fishing the dump, but it was building so slowly that tonight would really be when the best part was, and I'm not going to stand there in the dark.
No,
it must have taken a left at Tivoli.
That's right.
I just looked at the.
You sure you're not looking at your deer ranch?
I double checked that. The first thing I did was I backed up and I was like, okay, it's Port Aransas. It's Port Aransas.
My tide level has gone from right at 1 foot to almost 0.
That's where
3 or 4 hours.
Yep.
And it's falling fast.
So what do you do?
West.
Because then it's going to get a little warmer over the weekend, Scott, and I think 65 is low on Friday.
Yeah, it's really not even going to get that cold behind this thing from what it's showing. We got some 40s in the mornings, but it warms up high 60s in the middle of the day. I think the fish are still going to stay up shallow. I don't think they're going to go anywhere. We're going to have that dump like Caleb's talking about. All the bait fish is getting pulled out of the back lakes. I'd fish any of the shorelines where there's some drains from the back lakes, and I'd start there and work that.
And just to throw it out there for some of our favorite listeners, yes, the tide has came down to near normal levels because of the season, but this by definition is a dump where it happens real quick, not like, we've lost 6 or 8 inches a day for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
I want to say last year, Scott and I got accused of missing the dump. And I assure you, me and Santa Claus over there, we watch that weather real close because we like the dump.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you guys have going through the holiday? Oh, by the way, little programming note here. On New Year's Eve is generally that's the day that we have the podcast posted. We're going to have a little special. It's going to be like a Barbara Walters thing, man. I'm going to, just so people know, I'm going to sit down with each of these crazy guys individually over the next week.
I promise not to cry.
You're going to make Dean cry?
And get the story. We've been doing this for damn 5 years. And most of these guys together for at least 3 years. And I've never really said how they got here, the history, the background, the influences, et cetera. So I'm going to do Caleb and then Scott and then Dean next week individually for about 15, 20 minutes. And that's going to be our New Year's Eve show. So you really get to know the ins and outs of our guys. And it is a dangerous proposition. Trust me.
How long do you think it takes to talk about poor life choices?
15 to 20 minutes. That's all you got.
Okay.
That's why you better start thinking about it.
The worst ones.
Yeah, just pick the hits. But so put that in there. We have never missed an episode. We had one that didn't record, and I put something together, but we've never missed an episode in 5 years. I don't plan on doing it now. So we will have a Christmas Eve show and a New Year's Eve show. Next week is as scheduled with these guys, but sort of a little programming note there. Do you guys need to mention anything here? I know, we've had some guides kind of, and I'm not picking on anybody in particular, but kind of pot licking on the group page, and maybe they weren't, but I kind of deleted those posts because these 3 guys right here are the ones that you absolutely want to book. What is y'all schedule? Are you planning anything, Dean? I'm gonna start with you. Are you gonna just go hunting? What should people know if they want to book you?
Call me. I'll postpone hunting for a fishing trip. No, man, I have people on standby right now. I mean, we're just going in between the weather. And, if the weather turns to crap, we go to the ranch. If it's good, I'm here. I'm trying to decide right now if I want to talk somebody into going tomorrow and mistreat them or, take the chance. It's like 50-50 tomorrow. I mean, it's going to be, I don't know. Of course, the way everybody's talking, I think that wind is just a little bit slow getting to me. It's going to push through. And I don't want to talk somebody into going fishing if it's gale force winds tomorrow. So, I mean, it's just this time of year, the schedule is very flexible, man. Call me. Let's go. We'll figure it out.
You're doing a lot of stuff with Angler U, but if our listeners want to get with you?
Man, I don't think I have a spare minute. If you want to hang out with me on Angler U. I've got videos lined up to fish with to do with a bunch of guys for that. And then rumor has it I got to do some pretty intense daddying between Christmas and New Year's. So I don't think that I get to have any recreational fun. I mean, you guys know what the holidays is about. You leave the ones you love to go see your family. And so that's what
exactly. And I'm going to be delivering some tamales to you 3 knuckleheads as well. Scott, anything you need to get done? You want our listeners to know?
You got to feed the reindeer.
I'm taking Dad hunting the next 3 days. Dad gets
good
in the next 3 days.
Feed the reindeer.
After that, I'm pretty much wide open.
So you reckon you got to trim their hooves and stuff so they don't damage roof?
They don't slide off the roof.
Hey, Scott, you could retire from that and just star in Target commercials this time of year.
One of the other things that I'm working on for the winter is the new big boat being able to run some state water snapper stuff when the weather gets right. That's going to be one of those things like Dean's talking about. You guys be on standby, and when the wind and the waves get right, we'll go out there and give it a shot. But
if the weather turns to crap, he'll be up at the mall with little kids. And when the weather turns good, he's out there catching fish.
That's exactly right. And I'll do a little video or something of your new ride there, Scott, when I come bring your tamales after Christmas. So we'll get it done. You guys, man, that was something. That was a show right there. Definitely a show. Appreciate everybody joining us. And of course, be safe. We are bearing down on the holidays, man. Don't forget to subscribe. As I always say, don't forget, to get with Angler U, ogsauce.com. We're selling the hell out of those Christmas boxes. If you want to get one of those, just go to ogsauce.com. That's always good. Otherwise, let's catch some fish. I am actually going to the Army-Navy game this week, so I will not be fishing. We go every year with my regular day job, so I'll be over there. But back on the water soon enough. You guys have a great week, great weekend. Catch it up, and we will talk to you next time.
So seriously, you think she has a sister?